The letter from my great-uncle's attorney arrived on a Tuesday morning. It was completely unremarkable, except for the embossed law firm letterhead. It seemed to shimmer in the sunlight streaming through my kitchen window. I had only met great-uncle Arthur twice in my entire life. Once was at a family reunion when I was 7, and again at my father's funeral when I was 19. He was a known family eccentric. He was the one who disappeared into the mountains of Colorado decades ago and rarely spoke to anyone. Now, apparently, he had left me absolutely everything. Ms. Harrington. I understand this comes as a massive surprise. Attorney Marcus Thorne said this during our first phone call that afternoon. His voice carried a smooth, measured tone. It was the tone of someone who had delivered shocking news many times before. Your great-uncle's estate consists primarily of land. It is approximately 1,200 acres in the Cascade foothills. There is also the original farmhouse, though I should warn you, it needs considerable work. I sat down heavily on my couch, my mind completely reeling. 1,200 acres. I don't even know what to do with that much land. Well, there is one complication, Marcus continued, and I could hear papers rustling on his end. About 15 years ago, a residential development called Falcon Ridge Estates was built. It was built on what the developers believed was adjacent county land. However, recent surveys conducted for your uncle's estate have revealed something shocking. The entire development, all 47 homes, was actually built directly on your great-uncle's property. My mouth went completely dry. I'm sorry, what? The development is on your land, Ms. Harrington. The county records were incorrect, and the title company completely failed to catch the discrepancy. Your great-uncle discovered this about 3 years ago, but was pursuing legal action when he passed. The entire Falcon Ridge Estates HOA is, legally speaking, trespassing on your property. 3 weeks later, I stood at the edge of what I now knew was my own property. I stared down at the neat rows of cookie-cutter houses that made up Falcon Ridge Estates. They were nice homes, 2-story colonials, with manicured lawns and 3-car garages. They had those decorative lampposts that seem mandatory in every single modern subdivision. In the center, I could clearly see a clubhouse with a pool, tennis courts, and a playground. All of it was sitting on land that legally belonged to me. This is absolutely insane, I muttered quietly to myself. You must be Chloe Harrington. I turned to find a woman in her 50s, marching up the dirt road toward me. She wore white capri pants, a pink polo shirt, and an expression that could have easily curdled milk. Her blonde hair was pulled back so tightly, I wondered if it gave her permanent headaches. I'm Pamela Montgomery, president of the Falcon Ridge Estates Homeowners Association, she announced. She stopped a few feet away with her hands firmly on her hips. We need to talk about this ridiculous claim you're making. It's not a claim, I replied calmly. It is a fact. The land surveys don't lie. This entire development is on my property. Pamela's face flushed bright red. That's absurd. We have been here for 15 years. We have legal rights. Actually, you don't. I pulled out the official surveyor's report from my bag. This has been verified by 3 independent surveyors and confirmed by the county. The original property records had the boundary lines wrong. Your developer built on private land without permission. This is our home. Pamela's voice rose to a shrill shriek. You can't just kick us out. We'll sue you into oblivion. I met her angry gaze steadily. Feel free, but I suggest you sue your developer and title company instead. They are the ones who messed up. I'm simply claiming what is legally mine. Over the next week, I learned just how nasty an HOA could be when their existence was threatened. Pamela launched what I could only describe as a vicious smear campaign. She sent letters to every single resident. She claimed I was a greedy outsider trying to steal their homes. She organized a frantic neighborhood meeting. According to the one friendly resident who texted me, She compared me to various historical villains during that meeting. Then came the blatant attempts at intimidation. I had moved into Great Uncle Arthur's farmhouse, a charming but dilapidated structure about a quarter-mile from the development. One morning, I woke to find my driveway blocked. There were 3 pickup trucks blocking the path. Several men stood around them with their arms crossed, trying their best to look menacing. I walked out onto the porch with my coffee, acting deliberately casual. "Can I help you, gentlemen? You need to drop this land nonsense," one of them called out loudly. He was in his 40s, balding with a goatee that probably looked better in his imagination. "We are not going anywhere, I see. And blocking my driveway is supposed to convince me. How exactly?" "This is a warning," the man said aggressively. "Things could get difficult for you out here. Accidents happen on properties this big." I pulled out my phone and very visibly started recording them. "I want to make sure. I have this on camera. You are threatening me with violence if I don't surrender my legal property rights. Is that correct?" The men exchanged highly uncomfortable glances. "Also, just so you know, the county sheriff is my attorney's brother-in-law, and he is very interested in this case." This was technically true. Marcus had mentioned it casually. The trucks were gone within 5 minutes, but Pamela wasn't quite done. She tried a different approach. She attempted negotiation, or at least what she considered negotiation. She appeared at my door 3 days later. This time she came with a forced smile and a covered dish. "I thought we got off on the wrong foot," she said sweetly. "I brought you a casserole." I took the dish warily. "Thank you. The thing is, Chloe, may I call you Chloe? We are reasonable people. We understand you have legal ownership technically. But surely we can work something out. The HOA is prepared to offer you $150,000 to quit claim the land to us." I almost laughed out loud. $150,000 for 1,200 acres of prime real estate with an entire development sitting on it. What do you want then? The fake sweetness was already evaporating rapidly from her voice. "I want what is legally mine," I said simply. "And I want compensation for 15 years of unauthorized use of my property." Pamela's mask dropped completely. "You're making a huge mistake. We have lawyers. We have resources. We'll tie you up in court for years." "Go ahead," I said. "My attorney is working on contingency because he knows this is an open and shut case." "How much will your HOA spend on legal fees before your members turn on you?" I closed the door on her sputtering outrage. The real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A man named Harrison Grant, one of the Falcon Ridge Estates residents, knocked on my door a few days later. Unlike Pamela, he looked genuinely worried rather than angry. "Ms. Harrington, I am a real estate attorney," he said. "I am not representing the HOA. This is completely personal. I have reviewed the surveys and the property records. Your claim is ironclad. I know, right? So I have been talking to some of the other residents, the ones Pamela doesn't control. We want to negotiate a real solution, not the insulting offer she made." I invited him in, and we talked for 2 solid hours. The final settlement took 3 months to finalize. It turned out that Pamela and her inner circle of 4 other board members had known about Great Uncle Arthur's lawsuit years ago. They had hidden it from the general membership. They gambled that he would simply die before it concluded. They bet completely wrong. When the other residents learned the absolute truth, chaos ensued. There was a special HOA meeting that Pamela did not control. She was forcibly removed from the board, and Harrison became the new president. The final agreement was actually fair. The HOA purchased the 120 acres that the development occupied for $2.4 million. That was $20,000 per acre, which was the market rate. They also paid $450,000 in back rent for the 15 years of unauthorized use. The money came from a combination of a special assessment on each household and insurance settlements. It also came from a lawsuit against the title company that had missed the massive error. Pamela and her co-conspirators, who had known about the problem and hidden it, were personally sued by the other HOA members for breach of fiduciary duty. Last I heard, they had settled out of court for substantial amounts. As for me, I kept the remaining 1,080 acres of pristine land. I sold off 500 acres to a conservation trust, ensuring it would remain undeveloped forest forever. With that money and the HOA settlement, I paid off my student loans entirely. I quit my soul-crushing corporate job and renovated Great Uncle Arthur's farmhouse. I am writing this from the porch of that farmhouse right now. I am looking out over hundreds of acres of rolling hills and dense forest. In the distance, I can just barely see the rooflines of Falcon Ridge Estates. We are cordial neighbors now. Harrison and I have even become good friends. Some of the residents wave happily when they drive past. Pamela moved away 6 months ago in disgrace. I heard she is in Florida now, probably terrorizing a brand new HOA. As for me, I learned something incredibly valuable from Great Uncle Arthur, even though we barely knew each other. Sometimes the most valuable inheritance isn't money or land. It is the backbone to stand up for what is rightfully yours. No matter how many Karens come knocking at your door, the land is mine. I earned it by not backing down, and I am not going anywhere. If you have ever dealt with an HOA or someone who abused their power, share that in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe to HOA Conflicts for more.